Hello everyone, Chris Campbell here in the clock shop once again. This one came into our shop this afternoon. This is a very old Waltham 8-day car clock. It is basically nothing more than a gigantic pocket watch. That's all it is. This dates back to 1908. It's I believe, let's see how many jewels. I don't want to tell you wrong, so we'll take the back off. It is a 7-jewel movement, and this particular clock have been considered a luxury item in a car in 1908. It would have fit inside the dashboard, and this stem is basically like a pocket watch or a wristwatch. It is what you would use to set the time, and you would also use it to wind it up, and it's not winding, and that may be why it's not working. So we're going to go ahead and completely disassemble. And to start off, we have to loosen up some screws here. Perfect. And I'll back that one back in so we don't lose them. And then the face will simply screw off. And that exposes the face. And now what I'm going to do is ever so lightly pull up. That's our second hand, and I'm going to place it in our back plate. And this one here will just pop right off. I'll work it around. And there we go. Okay. So, now let's start our disassemble. So we're going to go ahead and take out this screw here. And this screw. And we'll go ahead and pop, and that is the case, and now we have our movement. Alright, so the next step we're going to do is go ahead and remove the dial, and it's got some screws on the side. And that is our dial. Alright. And right off I can see the second pinion is bent. So that would explain why the second hand was very loose. Alright, so that is our intermediate wheel. Our cannon pinion. Okay. We've also got some rust here that will definitely need to be addressed. It's very sticky, oily. Let's see. One of the things that I definitely want to do is make sure that the power is let down in the mainsprings, because this one actually has two mainsprings, and the pressure that it's underneath, or the power that's underneath those, can be quite devastating, and you definitely do not want that. So alright, I'm going to now see if I can find me a smaller screwdriver and see if we can't get the pallet fork. Nope. Alright, let me go to a different size. And back then they used some very tiny screws, and that is super tiny, and I'm not having much luck on this one. So this one is jammed up. Alright, that can pose a problem, because this is actually the smallest. Let's see what gauge this one is. I think I'm back at the same point. Nope, this is actually just a tiny bit smaller. Alright, so that's good. So now we'll remove our balance cock plate. And our balance. Or I should actually say that's the pallet fork, not balance, sorry. Pallet fork. The jewels look to be in good shape, so that's good. Alright, so somewhere we're not getting power to our train. And that's what I want to figure out, why it's not getting any power. So we're going to go ahead and take this bridge off, or plate. And see why. Okay. I'm going to look at the jewels under a microscope later on. But we have our escapement wheel. And we have our seconds wheel, which is stuck. So that may explain it. Okay, so we're going to undo this plate next. And this is the part that scares me, because for some reason it feels as if the mainsprings are tightly wound, but there's no power being released even after removing those train of gears. So if anything was to go wrong, this would be the part where the movement would, very good, would blow apart. And it didn't. Alright, so we have our intermediate wheel here. We have our main wheel gear. And I'm going to look at the jewels in our microscope in just a little bit. So now we'll go ahead and take out this train of wheel here. Place it here. And our seconds wheel. And this is the one that's got the bent tooth. Alright, so we're going to have to work on that. This is our main spring, and boy, that is rusted, all the way around rusted. I would hate to see what the inside. We're just going to take a look. Oh my gosh. And I think, yep, that is a problem. So we actually have a piece of the mainspring wrapped around the arbor that's broke. So that is definitely why it's not running. It is rusted up. Okay. Now we'll take out our second mainspring. Let's see, first I need to remove this gear. And basically this little gear here tells when it's daytime, nighttime. Alright, so we'll push that up. Push that out. And let's see what we have behind curtain number 1. Oh, that's much better. And that's the way it should be. Perfect, okay. So we have one good mainspring. Alright, so our next step here is we're going to go ahead and remove the crutch. Let's see. Well, I said I was. Whoever installed these last kind of butchered them up. And so the heads are no longer straight, but have got a notch into them. So what I'm going to do is leave that in place for right now until I can flatten and cut that head off a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that back down. Next we'll go ahead and take our top outer plate off. This is held on with 3 screws. And that's weird, there's actually 3 different size heads, or at least 2 at the moment. And this one is missing a screw. Alright. So we'll go ahead and remove this gear, and that's rusted really bad on both sides. Okay. And we'll go ahead and remove this outer wheel. And this one's got the pins sticking up. And now we have one more gear. Now sometimes these can actually be threaded reverse, but this one is not. So that's actually a good thing, because sometimes they can be right as loose. Okay. And then we have this little washer. Now we can remove our center wheel. And boy, this thing is sticky and grit. So for right now, the verdict is that this really does desperately need a good cleaning and servicing. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get it ready for the cleaner. Clean and polish all the parts. Check the jewels and the plates on both sides. Inspect all the gears. Make some minor repairs and order a new mainspring. And try to clean up the barrel of the mainspring. And hopefully we can get this old clock running again. It's going to take a lot of work on this one. with the many things that is wrong. Another thing that I just saw is our center wheel. The center shaft is got a bent in it, so it is not running true. So that's definitely going to have to be addressed. So I will have to maybe cut a new arbor and make a new center shaft here. Alright, stay tuned. Alright everybody, Chris Campbell here. We have our mainspring taken apart. A few things to note is the inside of the barrel is caked in rust. I mean, it is rusted up. The outer diameter is all rusted and corroded, as well as the back plate is also rusted. The mainspring is broken into three pieces, I should say. This is the mainspring. It is completely rusted up. This is the original mainspring from 1908. Here's another piece of the mainspring that's broke, and the hook of the mainspring that is broke. So luckily I was able to find a donor clock off of eBay. So it's basically just the movement itself. It's the same model as the one that we're currently working on. These things are very expensive, and the customer wants to get this repaired at absolutely whatever it costs. I'm trying to keep the cost of the repair down, but just the movement of this particular clock, the same style, it came with no face, no cannon pinion, and no intermediate wheel, and it's also missing the second wheel. Just this movement here was $175 for just to use the parts. So I'm hoping that the mainsprings in these are as good. The outer side looks really good. There's no rust or pits, so that would be great. A clock in this condition, once it is completely restored and working, they are highly collectible, and they sell anywhere from $500 to $600 a piece. And there's also wood cases that people display them in. So that's what I'm hoping to be able to do for our customer. Another thing that I noticed is there's two teeth broken off of the main spring barrel. So at some point when the mainspring broke, this came unwound, and therefore breaking off the teeth, and also damaging the second wheel. That's why it got bent, and also damaging our our main wheel. That's why it also got bent, the center wheel. So I can repair and make this particular gear, but if I can use a donor piece, that would save a lot of time and ultimately save the customer some money. Upon further examination, the escapement wheel also has some damage, and you can see just how tiny that escapement wheel is. That is super tiny. I've actually made one of these before, and to actually cut and manufacture an escapement wheel of this size takes roughly about 20 hours of lathe work and hand cutting out of pure brass, not to mention drilling, tapping, and putting in the arbor. And there's also a lanyard pinion, and I don't even know if you can see it, that is on the side here, which is what the other gear turns the escapement wheel. So you're talking micro size manufacturing when you're dealing with something this small. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put these in our trash bin. The arbor looks to be in fairly good condition. It does have some pits and some rust, and the pivot that fits into the main plate is also dull and flat. So that shows the signs that this came unwound at one time and broke. But I mean, just looking at the barrel, that is eat up with rust. So this is also going to go into our scrap bin, and the arbor too. So we're going to start our rebuild. This is all the parts of this movement. We're going to go through and see which ones we can salvage, which ones we can't, and then we will start taking it from our donor watch, and we will hand fit them from the donor watch to the customer's watch. So stay tuned. Have a wonderful evening.